Why happiness is not the goal. Very counterintuitive topic, isn't it? Especially in the environment where there are millions of books being written about how to go out and seek happiness. Let me begin by saying happiness is one of the most pursued and, in some sense, very misplaced goals of modern life. We are taught to chase it, optimize for it, measure even our lives by how often we feel happy. And yet, the more directly happiness is pursued, the more elusive it becomes. It's like pursuing your shadow. Not because inherently happiness is wrong, but because happiness was never meant to be the goal. Let me talk a little bit more about that in detail. See, happiness is like that fragile possibility that collapses when you pursue it directly. The reason for that is pleasure adapts. The moment you experience a certain type of pleasure, which is the lowest form of happiness, you get habituated to it. Similarly, success habituates, and it no longer gives you the high. What once felt exciting suddenly, quickly becomes ordinary, like every day. The nervous system is designed to normalize positive states. So when happiness is chased as an outcome, the system keeps asking for more. That is why pleasure fades, achievement disappoints, and satisfaction never really lasts. My mentor used to say, chasing happiness is like participating in a apple pie eating contest where the first prize is another apple pie. How do we think about this? So let's think about it like that. Happiness is not a goal, but it's a side effect. Let's examine what is it a side effect of. Let me begin by saying most people confuse happiness with a sense of fulfillment. Now, happiness is a feeling that arises and subsides. Fulfillment is a state of coherence that lasts because it's the very nature of feelings that they fluctuate. That's why we say fleeting feelings. Coherence endures because it is anchored in alignment, in a certain degree of groundedness. Let me say it another way. You can feel happy and still feel empty in the same moment. Just as you can feel tired, stressed, or challenged by what you're up to fulfilling and still feel deeply fulfilled. It's the nature of growth. Fulfillment truly arises when life feels aligned, aligned to who you are, how you live, and what you serve. And all of this points in the same direction. Your regulatory system, especially the nervous system, understands this intuitively, it's embodied. When life is fragmented, the system stays restless and under threat. When life is aligned, the system settles. Even when circumstances are difficult, the system has resilience. That's why some people feel peaceful in demanding lives. Others feel very anxious, even in comfortable life. But remember, comfort is not the same thing as coherence. See, peace does not arrive when life becomes easy. So do not try to expect that let me make my life easy and I will be peaceful. Peace arrives when the system is at safety. It no longer needs to defend. When effort of pushing against the flow softens into alignment. When control or desire to control things loosens into inner trust, like an implicit trust is everything going to be okay. This is what it's meant to be. Chasing happiness creates tension. Living meaningfully creates coherence. That's why peace sometimes arrives late, like trains in Germany. But when it arrives, it stays. Happiness flickers like a flame, off and on. Peace endures like sunlight in your heart. Many people spend their lives trying to feel good, and very few people pause to ask whether their lives make sense to them at all or not. Meaning is quieter than pleasure, but it is more stabilizing, balancing. Meaning does not excite the nervous system, it reassures it with safety. And it is this reassurance that allows a human system to release chronic vigilance, the state of constant fight or flight. This is why happiness cannot be forced, cannot be caused. It emerges. It emerges from the background or comes forth from the background when life is lived truthfully. When effort is replaced by alignment, when outward appearance gives way to an inner integrity, where obsession with self yields to being of service, of contribution, happiness shows up when it is no longer chased or demanded. So, happiness is not something you lust after or you achieve, it's something that appears when your life is oriented to being lived well. And peace is also not something you chase, it arrives when your system can feel safe and at rest. Therefore, as they always say, live truthfully, live meaningfully. Happiness will visit when it wants to, but peace, when it arises in your heart, will always remain. So remember, peace of a life lived in alignment and lived well as being of service is the true summit to walk to, not happiness that is a temporary companion. I'm pretty moody at that.